During the Crusader period here in Jerusalem, many important people, some of them even kings, asked to be buried right next to the tomb of Jesus. And so it was. But when the Muslims took control of Jerusalem, they removed almost all of these tombs except for one, the tomb of Philip Dubini, a tutor to young King Henry III, was one of the people who signed as a witness the Magna Carta, and above all, he was committed to the cause of the Holy Land. His tomb can be found right here at the entrance to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, but today it is sheltered with a wooden cover. Now, let's enter the church. When we enter the church, we see in front of us the stone of anointing, where the body of Jesus was laid down in preparation for his burial after Jesus' body was taken down off the cross. Then took they the body of Jesus and wound it in linen cloths with the spices, as the manner of the Jews is to bury. From here we shall turn left and arrive at the Chapel of the Three Marys. This is the spot that, according to the Gospels, marks the place where the three Marys stood and watched the crucifixion and then the burial of Jesus. Now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Cleophas, and Mary Magdalene. If we want to imagine what the three Marys had watched, we shall stand behind this chapel and look toward the Golgotha over there. From here, we shall enter the rotunda, where the tomb of Jesus is located. But today, we shall go to the west side of the rotunda, where the Coptic chapel is located, right at the back of the edicule. Inside this chapel, there is a stone, which is the back head of Jesus' tomb. This is the actual rock part of Jesus' tomb, while inside the edicule, the tomb is covered by marble stones in order to protect it. Now, let's turn further back to the western extremity of the rotunda. It is the Chapel of the Syrians. The conflict between the Syrians and the Armenians over the ownership of the room has led to its degradation. Each Sunday, the Syrian Orthodox celebrate Mass in this room. Over there is the entrance to a passageway that leads to the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea. The discovery of this Jewish tomb confirms the usage of this area as a burial site during the time of Jesus, and by that gives confirmation that this is the actual site of Jesus' burial. Now, let's go to the area inside the church which is associated with the resurrection of Jesus. We first arrive at the Chapel of Mary Magdalene, which is dedicated to the encounter between Mary Magdalene and Jesus after his resurrection. When Mary tried to touch her master, Jesus said, "Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father." Right next to this chapel is the Franciscan chapel of the apparition of Jesus to his mother, as is narrated in the apocryphal book of the Resurrection of Christ by Bartholomew the Apostle. The column here on the right is part of the column of flagellation, to which Jesus was tied during his flagellation. To the left is a bronze status depicting Jesus meeting his mother Mary, and here on the shelf are 14 bronze statues that mark the stations of the cross. Now, let's continue through the north aisle of the church, moving east. This area is called the Arks of the Virgin, which commemorates the visits of Mary to the tomb of her son. When we look around, we can see the remains of the first Byzantine basilica, such as this back wall and these smaller columns with a rough exterior. Heading east, we shall visit 4 chapels that mark events along the final journey of Jesus. These chapels were built so pilgrims could commemorate scenes from the Passion within the church while they were not allowed to move freely in the streets of the city. The first one is the prison of Christ, where Jesus was held. prior to his trial. The second one is the chapel of Saint Longinus, dedicated to the Roman soldier who with his lance pierced Christ's side, from which blood and water immediately flowed out. When he saw that, Longinus immediately accepted Jesus as the Son of God. Truly, this was the Son of God. To the right is the third one, the chapel of the Division of the Holy Robes, which commemorates Jesus being stripped of his garments by the Roman soldiers. Between this chapel and the fourth one are the stairs leading to the chapel of Saint Helena, for which I have a special video. We are now at the fourth chapel, the Chapel of Derision, which commemorates the insults of the priests and the people towards Jesus at the beginning of his last journey to his crucifixion. Here, we can see a preserved fragment of the column on which, according to tradition, Christ sat when the crown of thorns was put on his head. There is a belief that if you put your ear to the altar, you can hear the sound of laughter. We are now right next to the rock of Golgotha, where Jesus was crucified, and here we can see part of the actual rock of Golgotha exposed. Now, let's go upstairs to Golgotha and have a closer look. Here is the place where the Holy Cross stood. As you can see, pilgrims are getting down on their knees to enter their hand to touch the rock of Golgotha at the very place where the cross stood. When we look at the rock of Golgotha from the side, we can see the crack in the rock caused, according to earliest Christian tradition, by the earthquake that occurred at the moment of Jesus' death. The crack was said to have allowed Christ's blood to fall upon and thereby redeem Adam, who is thought to have been buried right below Golgotha, where today is the Chapel of Adam, right below us.